All right, we're back for our problem-solving application. What it says is a square piece of cloth. Okay, so we know it's a square, right? And what do we know about a square? We know that a square has the same sides, right? So this side is the same as this side. So you use these. All of the sides of a square are the same. And you put these little hash marks in there, and that means that they're all the same. So we know that it's a square, so all the sides are the same, right? Okay, so a square piece of cloth must be cut in to make a tablecloth. The area needed is 16x squared minus 24x plus 9 inches squared. Okay, so that's the area. I'm going to write that down. The area is equal to 16x squared minus 24x plus 9, right? And what do we know about area of a square? So area of a square is going to be, it's going to be length times width, right? But we know that these have to be the same. Length and width are the same. So it's really, for a square, it's going to be something like area equals, you know, the width squared or L squared or something, right? For a square. Okay, so a square piece of cloth must be cut to make a tablecloth. The area needed is 16x squared minus 24x plus 9 inches squared. The dimensions of the cloth are in the form of cx minus d, where c and d are whole numbers. Find an expression for the perimeter of the cloth. Find the perimeter. So find an expression for the perimeter of the cloth. And then find the perimeter when x equals 11. Okay, so they give us the area, and then they're talking about the perimeter. What do they want? They want the dimensions. So the dimensions of the cloth are in the form of this, where c and d are whole numbers. Okay, great. Write an expression for the perimeter. So they want us to find the perimeter as an expression. And then they want us to find the perimeter when x equals 11. Okay. So basically they're giving us the area formula, and then we're going to have to use that area formula to figure out something about the perimeter. Okay. So we know that the area is in this form, right? This is a trinomial, but we need to put it to this form, because when it is in area equals length times width, then, or area equals width times width, or length times width, or it doesn't matter what letter you use, it's a square, right? So they're both going to be the same side. But when you change it and it's multiplication, then you know what the dimensions are. So whatever this is multiplied by this, those are the dimensions. This is the length, that's the width, okay? So we are going to have to change this trinomial so it's in the area formula where they're multiplied, which means we're going to have to factor it. So when I'm looking at this, what I see is I see 16, that's a squared number, and x is a squared number, and also 9's a squared number. So this is kind of like putting off it's like kind of like a red light that's going off, and I'm like, oh, when I look at these numbers, these are squared numbers. So this might be a perfect square trinomial, right? Which is kind of like a cheat rule to be able to factor it pretty quickly. So what do I know this is? So I want to check, right? This is easy to, these two are, the first and the last are easy to identify, but I want to make sure that that middle term matches up. So what is this? This is the same thing as 4x squared, and 9 is the same thing as 3 squared, right? And so that middle term is going to be 2 times, which means it's going to be even. This is even, so that's a good start. 3 times 4x, right? So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. So yes, this is a perfect square trinomial, so that's awesome. So we can just go ahead, and I'm going to do my little voot-voots. I know that there's going to be 4x and 4x, so whatever this is, that's where I write here and here for my first term. Whatever's here, I write here and here. And then what do I need? I know that I'm going to need a positive 9, right? So to get a positive 9, both of my signs either both have to be positive or they both have to be negative, and then this is negative, which means they both have to be negative. So my area is the quantity 4x minus 3, times the same thing, right? And it's a square, right? So that makes sense. So length times width. So these are the dimensions. This is the length, this is the width of my square. They're the same, right? This is area length times width, okay? So it says find the expression. So this is going to be 4x minus 3, and this is going to be 4x minus 3. And it's a square, right? So all of these sides are 4x minus 3, right? So if I want to find the perimeter is the distance around this figure, right? So I can go 4x minus 3 plus 4x minus 3 plus 4x minus 3 plus 4x minus 3, or they're the same thing. So I can just go the perimeter equals 4 times 4x minus 3, because adding these 4 things that are exactly the same is the same thing as just multiplying it all by 4. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and distribute that. So my perimeter is going to equal 4 times 4x is 16x, and then 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. So that is my perimeter, okay? So find an expression for the perimeter of the cloth. This is my perimeter of the cloth, okay? Now what it says is find the perimeter when x equals 11. So I'm going to take my perimeter here. Perimeter equals 16x minus 12, and then I'm going to figure out what is the perimeter when x equals 11, I'm sorry. So we're going to substitute 11 in there. Perimeter equals 16 times 11, substitute it in there for x. And then I just need to figure out, well, what is 16 times 11? I'm not sure. 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1. There, I'm going to put a 0. 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, so it's 176, so the perimeter equals 176 minus 12, and that is equal to 164 inches. So yes, there we go. Okay, that's how you solve that type of problem. Now it's time for you to try it and check it out with example 2. And here's my friend the pause dragon. Remind you to pause your device. Go ahead and work out, check it out, example 2. When you get done, press play and we'll go over it together. All right, see you in a bit. Okay, let's see how you did. It says, what if a company produces a square sheets of aluminum? Okay, so we're dealing with a square. All the sides are the same. Each which has an area of this right here. Okay, they're giving us the area. Area equals 9x squared plus 6x plus 1. We know area equals length times width, or area is the same thing as the width squared. Because they're all the same side, right? The side length of each sheet is in the form of cx plus d, where c and d are whole numbers. Wonderful. Find an expression in terms of x for the perimeter of a sheet. Okay, so we need to find the dimensions. Oh, and then find the perimeter when x equals 3. So we have to find the expression in terms of x of the perimeter. We got to do 2 things. And then we have to find the perimeter when x equals 3. All right, cool. So let's do it. So what I notice when I'm looking at this, so I need to put this into the, we're given the area formula. We're going to have to use the area formula and convert it into this area equals length times width, so we know what the dimensions are. So then we can use those dimensions to figure out what the perimeter is, which is the distance around the figure. So let's do it. What I notice here, I notice that 9 is a squared number, x squared is a squared number, and 1 is also a squared number. And so I just need to figure out if this is a perfect square trinomial, because it's like my red flags are going off. Like, hey, squared number, it might be a perfect square trinomial. So I know that this is 3x squared, and I know that this is 1 squared. So this just has to be 2 times one of these and one of those. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 3, x is 6x. So woohoo, it is. So I can do my little voot-voots, voot-voot. And then it's one of these, 3x, 3x, and one of those, 1, 1. This is going to be my area. I know that both the signs, because this is positive, both have to be positive or both have to be negative. This is positive, so both signs are positive. So this is my area formula. Now that I have them multiplied by each other, I know that this is area equals length times width. They are the same thing, which makes sense because it is a square. So that means my side lengths are at 3x plus 1 and 3x plus 1 and 3x plus 1 and 3x plus 1, right? So I got to find the distance around, which means you add all these up, or since they're all the same, and instead of going 3x plus 1 plus 3x plus 1 plus 3x plus 1 plus 3x plus 1, you can do the short, what is it called? The shortcut, which would be 4 times 3x plus 1. Does your brain ever just stop? Like my brain like totally stopped. Like I was on this pathway of thought, and then it just stopped, and I just couldn't remember what shortcut. I knew short, but I couldn't figure the cut. It's interesting. Anyways, okay, so we have this 4 times this. This is what the perimeter is, right? 4 times, because all of these are added up, which is the same thing as just 4 times that. And so the answer, we're going to have to distribute this. 4 times 3x is 12x. 4 times 1 is 4, positive 4. So there is our perimeter. So we did the first part. Woohoo! If you got that right, amazing job. If not, just fix your work so it looks like mine. And then we need to figure out the second part. They want us to use this formula. Perimeter equals 12x plus 4. And we want us to figure out what the perimeter is when x equals 3. So we just substitute that in. We get P equals 12 times 3 plus 4. 12 times 3 is 36. Plus 4. 36 plus 4 is 40. So the perimeter is 40 meters. And that is our answer. So if you got all of those right, yo, thank you, Moshe. You did a wonderful job, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.